this week, I thought I would share some of the stuff I've been researching and studying with all of the mediums and psychics and near-death experiences and sort of that metaphysical side of what our belief systems are, and then bringing the science into it, because I was trained as a scientist years ago and had sort of negated religion because the organized religion was hypocritical in my mind. And I saw so many flaws. And so I kind of took a few years off and decided, nothing to this religion thing. And then all of a sudden, the spirituality started floating back into my world. So the science still objected back in the day to anything that we believed was a conscious connection or being, physical, mental, spiritual, and able to identify things that we could manifest. And so now science is starting to prove that we can do this. And so this is what inspired me to start to share this presentation. Oh, can I, before I do this, in case somebody else comes in, can I make you a co-host, Kevin? Is that okay? So you can let people in?
Muted, so.
Or
Yes,
whoever.
what do I do?
If you just see somebody come in, you need to admit them. Somebody
Where
else.
do I see that?
If I make you, oh, I can't make you a co-host. I can only make you the host. So you'll now host the show. So if somebody comes in, you'll see a thing across the screen that says admit. Yeah,
Oh, the power, the power.
the power.
Okay, I'll try and keep track. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I won't see it anymore, so I can't even ask you to do it. So keep your
Will you
eyes
be
peeled.
able to show your slideshow not being a host?
Yeah. Oh, you have to tell me. You have to let me, Kevin. So you're going to have to go down to the share screen, and a
Yes.
pop-up will say multiple people can share.
Yes. Okay. There.
See, I gave away my power, and look what happened. All righty. So this, it's actually brain-heart coherence, but I thought that was kind of a scientific thing. So can you see this okay? Oops. Harmonizing brain-heart healing, I figured was an easier thing to say. I ran this by Sally B yesterday, and she didn't really respond very well to brain-heart coherence. So it's harmonizing brain-heart healing. And this is based on some work that Greg Braden recently was interviewed about. And so I'll give you his links at the end of the presentation. But the HeartMath Institute is a well-known institute that has done a lot of studies for people that do energetic work. And so basically they're proving now that both the brain and the heart have synapses or neurons that can actually stimulate a state of being. And so they've done some research across the globe where groups of people would get together and they would meditate, or they would do spontaneous healings, or they would say prayers for peace or whatever, and they could see that the energetic resonance of the earth in that field was shifted and changed by a group of people just intending for good. And so there's a thing called the Schumann resonance, which is I don't remember how many hertz it is, but there's a frequency of the earth, the energetic of the earth, where if we can meditate and get ourselves in harmony with that, we can actually be in a better state of well-being. And that's both physical, mental, and spiritually. And so this is part of what we've talked about with the alchemy of the nature plus science kind of working in tandem. And what Greg Braden refers to is that our ancestors have known this all along. And if you think about indigenous populations that commune with the earth and honor nature and work within the cycles of life and death, that is likely to be very true. But science is finally catching up. And so the HeartMath Institute was kind of one of the forefathers in bringing this to the awareness. And now a lot of the spiritual leaders, as well as the scientists, are connecting the dots and starting to confirm that this is actually a thing. So on one side of the fence, you've got people who are using science to biohack or make themselves live longer. If you think about anti-aging, longevity, people that are into this, I can add 20 years to my lifespan and it can be healthy. or we can move the clock back and change the state of our physical cells, etc. And then on the other hand, with the spiritual connection, we have guides, we have people looking out for us. We've learned how to start to ask for a change in our states of being, whether it's feeling better about something, up-leveling a vibration, or actually healing a state like a miracle. And so this is a process, and I'll have to find the link to this particular workshop. This is a YouTube video, and I lost it after I turned it off. But this person was very good at bringing this into a state of 3 steps. We can harmonize the neural networks of our brain and the heart and make that connection so that we have more choice in our free will as to spontaneous healings, etc. By number 1, it's a 3-step process. Number 1, you shift your focus and you just bring yourself into your heart awareness and maybe put your hand on your heart and just feel it beat a little bit. And just shift your focus from the outside world or anything that's, nabbing at your attention and come into your heart space. And then step 2 is slowing your breathing. And so taking maybe three breaths as we speak. We inhale for the count of 4 and hold for 2. And then exhale for a count of 6. So as you inhale, hold, and then exhale a little bit longer, it sends a relaxation state of response into your body. So if we go ahead and do 3 of these, inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold it for 2. Just feel your heartbeat. And then exhale for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another time, inhale for 4. Hold. And then exhale for 6. Last time, inhale for 4. Hold. And exhale for 6. And as we connect our brain and our breath, we can then inspire a feeling or a sense of gratitude or a sense of positivity or whatever you choose to be, but add that sense of feeling to the heart, to the breath, and to your state. And this activates our sense of free will to make a choice. We get to choose how we respond to what the environment is throwing at us, or to what people in our lives are saying to us, or for what circumstances are being done around us. And as we have that sense of choice, that brings harmony to our neural networks between the brain and the heart to the degree that we can then make a choice, facilitate prayers for others as well as for ourselves, and instate a sense of healing. And so this graphic, you want to take a screenshot just to remind yourself, or I can give you notes. The benefits of the heart-brain coherence practice are a number of things: increased resilience, cognitive enhancement, emotional release, reducing cortisol levels, enhancing sleep, lowering blood pressure, improving relationships, heightened creativity, reduced anxiety, boosted immunity, deepened intuition, greater mental clarity, and enhanced emotional stability. So a lot of good things that we have absolute control over in 3 easy steps. And here are the notes if you want to grab that, screenshot of that. I guess I'll put this into it's in the slideshow. I'll send you the copy of this slideshow so that you have access. And the benefits are immunity, our sense of longevity, our body is able to heal itself, and relieving stress at a molecular level. Another way to put this into practice, and this is where I want your feedback, we tend to have this prayer list, and we offer prayers for people who have a struggle with a disease or an illness or a condition that they're facing. And what this particular source of study shows is that we literally can intend and use words that will put the energy field into that state by the way we say something. And so choosing our words carefully is an important thing. And so what is implied here is that when we send healings to people that have a state of being, if you say, oh, I want so-and-so's cancer to be, healed in the best possible way, even for their highest and best good. But if you if you use the words of their state of being, that state of illness, you tend to think of it as it's still in existence. And so what the implication here is, instead, you send the words as if it's already been handled. So you thank them for the healing of that state of health and anticipate or intend that it's already fixed. And there's the scientific proof in the physics of it, and I'm not really good at physics, but Greg Braden goes into this very deeply, and he'll talk about how they did experiments of taking two neurons and separating them, and then wondering, what the time is to send the connection or that intention or that state of what it's supposed to pick up and do. And they found out through the study that it's a parallel universe and that we're always in the existence of the plane of our intention. And so they're anticipating through this practice of this prayer is to go ahead and anticipate that it's already healed and that gives them a better chance of being a miracle or a healing or a change in the state of that particular condition. And so there is the science behind it. And I just like the fluffy part where I think we can anticipate and sense our own healing. So here are the references. Greg Braden had two very lengthy interviews, and he goes into the science and the spirituality. He's a geologist, an anthropologist, a biologist, and he also has studied religion intensely. He's literally gone on tours of all the different religions. Well, maybe not all, but different religions, but many global religions. And he's basically brought that all back. And he's very gifted at telling the story and describing through science what divinity is all about. And so it's a really inspiring set of interviews there. The relationship between the heart and brain from the HeartMath Institute is the center one. These are all videos that you can watch. And then the binaural beats is a rhythmic sound piece. And I like to listen to stuff like this as I'm falling to sleep. And so those are three references for your entertainment pleasure. But what I'd love to do is have us all talk about experiences that we've had, because in my mind, I learned so much from listening to near-death experiences or psychics or mediums that are connected. And I don't necessarily do very well on my own, but when I listen to other people's stories, I learn from it. And it's like, okay, now that solidifies my sense of belief. And so I'm curious what you guys are understanding about this sense of being able to produce these miracles of healing or anything around this.
That's an excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And in the early, about 1917, Ernest Holmes was teaching this stuff, and the New Thought movement, absolutely realized this was the power of healing. And so for the last 100 years, people in the New Thought movement, where Ernest Holmes was certainly a pioneer, and so was our founder of our ministry, who was a doctor of science of mind. This is a wonderful practice. And I'm sure I will not have lived this long if I haven't practiced this technique.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the part of the dilemma in life is we all judge by appearances.
Mm-hmm.
And in healing work, you can't, if you do that, you're part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To be part of the solution, you need to go deeper and recognize the prototype or the archetype spirit of us is whole, perfect, and complete.
Mm-hmm.
And do what we can to bring that into our consciousness. And it works pretty well. And many of you probably know that, I've been wrestling with this thing called prostate cancer for 20 years. It appears to be getting worse, maybe. And I've taken a PET scan Friday. And then when I did a CT scan, they found a mass in my colon. And then when I last week went to the eye doctor, I have cataracts in both eyes. And then when I go to the skin doctor, I'm hopeless.
Your body hears that. Don't say that.
And you're still here, so you're
Yeah,
intending in the
well,
right direction, right?
I say it with a sense of humor,
Yeah,
and that's the important thing. To find humor, and for me, to find humor in life
yeah,
is a celebration of joy. And joy is a fundamental essence of our divine nature. So anytime we're expressing joy, we're expressing the pureness of our essence. The same with peace. When we arrive at that center within ourselves that can be peaceful, regardless of any of the circumstances in the world,
yeah,
we can find that peace, and we're doing what this teacher was saying. We're melding the heart and the mind in a way that works best for us.
yeah.
And we all know that the world in itself is always conflict. There's always trouble. There's always dilemmas, and we kind of flourish in that scene.
Well,
And
it's part of the industrial complex where humans have turned it into something that they can control. And the control comes from the negative news, the constantly negative news, CNN, and keeping us in that state of fear so that we hold back from being our essence and our purity.
Fear selves.
Yeah, yeah.
Yourselves.
Big time. And it also controls. And so if you think about any of the industries, think about finance. People control by having all of the wealth at the top 1% of society as opposed to distributing it. And so there are a lot of ways that we as a conscious community can stand up to that to the degree that we can, however many masses we can pull together. And like the Heart Math Institute, we all bless the war. And that particular point in time, the energetic of the war is calmed and it's brought back to more of its natural state. And it's that kind of power in the humans and what we can accomplish energetically that I think is really fascinating.
yeah, the issue about that is I'm reading a book by Zakara on history of revolutions, and this stuff's been going on forever.
Mhm.
So what I've concluded from it pretty much is it's going to continue to do that. But my part in it, what I need to play is finding that center within myself that is not all upset and angry about it, because then I fall prey to it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and if you think about it, and I've seen some studies where they say historically we're at the least violent state of revolutions in the globe ever. And so we are slowly getting down to a different type of society. And I think that's what gives us hope. And that's what this awakening is happening. The veil is thinning. People are believing more and more in psychic abilities, in mediumship, in belief in a higher being or the vibration that we can all be a part of. And so I think that things are changing to the good, and we have a say in it. We have a way of showing up to make that possible.
Well,
I was listening the other day to a gentleman who figured about 2040 we're going to be much more I'll use the term enlightened when it comes to the feminine divinity and that we will have made a transition by then
Hmm.
into the new ideas.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Kevin, we're pioneers in that field, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so again, it gets to be the melding of the heart and the brain, or and getting into our intuitive nature that we kind of attribute to the divine feminine.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, if
Well,
you look at nature, I mean, the feminine archetype is that state of balance of the community, the, state of whatever, the forest, the grass, the plants, the animals, the, you know, water beings, etc. I'm curious, Paula and Yvonne, what are your thoughts in terms of being connected to the spirit world, in terms of us being self-healers?
I definitely think that we're self-healers. I think that that's and it's inevitable. But I will also say, so in some of the points that y'all were making when you were talking about, the rich versus the ones that have lack of money. So when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking that there is such, and unfortunately, this also becomes very political, but the whole piece of there's so much fear based in that world of the wealthy. The majority, I would say, live in a piece of fear that they will not have that, that their decisions can't be that there can be wealth for everyone. And it may not be at the same level. Maybe they're uncomfortable that other people would be. Not been rich, so I don't know. But I really look at that piece where there's just a lack of understanding, and a lot of the decisions are based on their need to continue to have that, as if that is everything, instead of a belief that everyone can have wealth to a
Yeah.
certain degree, whether it's financial or not. So that was an interesting piece that I was thinking of when you were sharing. And the other piece is, I think for me, and I would also think for a lot of people, Charlie, you were talking about, the need to be upset. I kind of have to have some kind of boiling of something in order for me to stand up to a certain degree. So that piece, I think, is important for me to go, okay, I'm not okay with where things are in the world. And so, as a community or as for myself, where do I stand and what are the choices I'm going to make? Because then those choices can make a difference in the world. It may only be a tiny, tiny domino effect, but I believe a lot of domino effects impact our whole world, and that we need lots of little domino effects. So those were some of the pieces, but as far as being self-healing, I think that it's something that we all should be embracing. I probably take it to a larger level than some people want to take it for themselves, certainly in my general world. I certainly know people that are not self-reflective, and that's okay. They get to be in that place. I choose not to be in that place. But I can also get caught up in that wheel of, okay, how much I have to remind myself to go back to chopping wood and carrying water, because sometimes that is all you have. I'm going to chop wood and I'm going to carry water, and then we'll see. So I need a kind of a combination of both, because I can certainly be in my head way, way too much, involved in feelings pieces as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thought pattern of it all.
Yeah.
Got a wheelbarrow. You can you can carry wood and you can carry barrels of water.
I
All in
can.
one implement.
And a couple years
Very
ago, I
good.
had to switch to a wheelbarrow, and it's thrown me off. But I could no longer guide that piece and be comfortable. And it's a whole different experience having a wheelbarrow.
I'll bet.
Mhm.
Well, for me, I remember when my kid sister, who's now 70, was probably 12, she developed mono. And the doctor said, "Oh, you're going to be out of school for 6 weeks or maybe even 6 months." And she goes, "No, I'm not." In 3 weeks, she was healed.
Mm.
She shocked the heck out of the doctor and my mother. And because she decided that was it.
Yeah.
And when I had my open heart surgery, I have lots of psychic friends, and they were all calling me and sending me messages and saying, you're going to be okay. I knew. I was determined that this surgery was going to go fine. I was going to be fine. And there was nothing else I was going to accept.
Hmm.
And so when my physician came in the day after my surgery and said, "You're my star," I said, "What the hell are you talking about? I'm your star." He goes, "You're the only one in weeks I haven't had no complications during the surgery."
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I accept that. On the other hand, my friend Cheryl is under a death sentence because
Mhm.
she has acute leukemia, which is a nasty one. And I spoke with her yesterday, and I see my mission with her as helping her understand she has the power to get rid of that.
Mhm.
And so I started that yesterday. It's really amazing that you came up with this today, because it's like, yeah, that's what I was doing with her yesterday. First, I
There you
had to
go.
make her laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, somebody's bone marrow is going to match. I'm sure mine would have matched because I would have wanted it to, but they wouldn't take mine because I have diabetes and heart issues.
Mhm.
But she's got a son. He's a perfect candidate for a bone marrow.
Yeah.
So yes, his bone marrow is going to match. Yes, it's going to work. And yes, you're going to get rid of this thing. But her focus, that word kept coming up. And I said, "Stop using that word.
Yeah.
You have to not focus on that word. You have to
Right.
focus on, I'm healed." But I understand, when you're under a death sentence, that's hard to do.
True. That's why
So
you need friends
I
like
see
you.
that.
Yeah.
Well, she said to me, "I'm so glad I've got a nurse as a friend," because I mean, she's also got chemo brain. And she's like, "Oh, I can't remember if I took my pills and I can't take double dose." And I said,
Yeah.
"Put your pills in your med minder box that I
Yeah.
bought you last time you had surgery." And she's like, "Oh, yeah." So yeah, that's my job as her friend, her psychic friend, her healer,
Yeah.
is to get her back in that channel. And thank you for those. I will send those
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
her to review.
Focus
So
on
just
the heart.
focus on
Breathe
the heart,
and feel
right?
as though you're in the healing state.
Right. But she can do that for other people. She is an amazing cranial psychotherapist. I have
Yeah.
actually seen her help people heal. But her fear, and we
Yeah.
were talking about fear, her fear is, "Oh no, I can't do that for me." Well, yeah, you can, and you're going to do it with my help. And she's got another cranial psychotherapist who works on her regularly.
Yeah.
So with the two of us, we're going to heal that disease because she doesn't need it. And she's only
Yep.
64,
Yep.
whatever 64 is these days. So we're convinced, yes, you're going to
Yep.
heal yourself. You're going to walk away. You're going to have a better appreciation for illness, and you're going to be able to do your job much better.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts on that. And I do believe, spirit does help
Hmm.
with that spiritual connection of actually bringing spirit through my crown chakra
Yeah.
down to my heart. That connection itself is very powerful for me.
Hmm.
And I just finished reading a book by Deepak Chopra about not manifesting wealth, but something about abundance. And he had like a thing to do for every letter of the alphabet.
Oh, wow.
And that's helped too. Hang on, let me get that book. It's over
Okay.
here.
Well, she's getting the book. It reminds me of years ago taking a seminar by people who were teaching fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real.
Ah, yeah.
False evidence appearing real. So often we get, caught up in appearances for sure,
Yeah.
and we get angry at situations. When we talk about the head and the heart, now we're talking about emotions. When some of us might be getting angry at a situation, we're expressing an emotion, and that's part of our human nature. We don't want to clog up our emotional nature, but we don't want to hold on to the fear that's created that motion. I guess that's one way of saying it.
I tend to be such an emotional person that for me, sometimes oh no, sometimes it's not the truth. All the time, I need to kind of like cleanse myself of it by like letting it out. Hey, Bobby.
Hi.
Hey.
So for me, I have to let it out because
Yeah.
I can have all of those emotions overtake me to where I can't have a
Mhm.
clear mind.
Right.
And that has just always been who I am.
Yeah.
But that's okay too. I can't, I've got to purge it. I have to verbally purge it. I write it out sometimes, and pieces like that. But until I do that, I struggle. So,
Well, our energy states are constantly in motion. If you think about the
Right.
infinity symbol, and
Mhm.
everybody's trying to find that center point of stasis, but it never stays there. So there's
Yeah.
always something going
Right.
on. And that's where the balance comes in, where you have to emote and you have to go through the shadow work and you have to feel the negative
Mhm.
energies to understand the joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yvonne, it's interesting. My approach is more mental, and
Gotcha.
the mental sciences, where my wife is more the emotional. And so for years, I try to calm her down and says, "Don't tell me how I should feel."
Exactly. Good for her. Good for her.
Go, Bobby.
She stood her ground.
Yeah.
Good for her.
The word emotion means energy and motion.
Can you repeat that,
Oh,
Bobby?
yeah.
I didn't hear it all.
The word emotion literally means energy in motion.
Mm.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah, that's the meaning.
Love that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That book I was telling you about is Creating Affluence, Wealth Consciousness in the Field of All Possibilities. And the thing that attracted me to this book is the field of all possibilities. Because ever since I watched What the Bleep Do We Know, the possibilities have always been the thing that floats in my mind. And that's what I was trying to tell my friend. I said, there are a million possibilities out there. The one you want to focus on is you're healed.
Yeah.
Because the one you focus on, the one you actually look at, is the one that becomes real.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little difficult for her to get that, but I'm going to keep going on that.
Would you put the name of the
Because
book in the chat?
I'll
It was
try.
just such a long, no offense.
It was,
such
yeah.
a long title. I was like, okay.
All right, hang on. Type message here. Okay.
Carrie, we haven't heard from you. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Hi, Carrie.
Hey, I'm very thankful for science and medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good thoughts.
Yeah.
There go the dogs, sorry.
Any other experiences anybody wants to share?
There you go. A little screwy, but yeah.
Oh, I think it
One
just
other
came
thing.
to me.
About the science.
Oh, did it
itself.
just come to you? I'm sorry. I thought it was
Yeah, no,
supposed to go
try
to
again and
everybody.
do to everyone. Yeah,
Great
Ah,
connection.
all
you
right.
know,
that's because I had sent you something. That's why.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Creating.
Oh, and Kevin, did you get my email about the tapping video? You're on mute.
It must have been something on YouTube end because I checked my version that I uploaded
Uh-huh.
and it was fine.
Really?
So I have replaced it and I'll know
you go.
after the service
Okay.
whether it's worked
Perfect.
because it has to process and
Okay.
it's processing during service.
All right. Thank you. Awesome. So in case anybody didn't see in the newsletter, we've now got links to the YouTube site. I don't know why I haven't put that in before. It's in the emails that we send, but we don't send that many. So YouTube channel is now featured in the newsletter. So we'll get some
Yay.
more views going on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Another thing I found is since I started painting,
Uh-huh.
when I am painting, I can't think about what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
All I focus on, and I become very peaceful when I'm painting because it's the most relaxing thing I've ever found to do. And so I think being able to focus on something that's you're passionate about or something
Yeah.
you really love is going to help you stay in that region of peace in your heart.
Yeah.
And I wish I had found this 40 years ago, but the teacher I had 40 years ago told me I was a terrible painter and I gave it up. But, you
Teachers.
know,
They damage
yeah,
with some words. I remember I
yeah,
had
he
an
damaged.
American lit teacher and a British lit teacher all in the same year. And one of them
Mhm.
absolutely adored my writing style, and the other one hated it. And I could do nothing right in her eyes. And it's like, how is this possible? You know, I've got two different people teaching writing, and I'm horrible in one
Mhm.
place and I'm wonderful in the other. It just didn't make sense to me.
I think, Paula, for
Goes to
me,
show
it
we shouldn't
becomes this
listen.
creative piece. When you're in that creative space, it has a way of just taking you, and it doesn't even have to be just visual arts, but the creative space just takes you to, well, it just clears things out immediately, and sometimes that can even be following a recipe. Right now I'm kind of playing around with how to cook Asian food, and when I really get into that zone, everything else is gone.
Yeah.
100%.
I did the same thing when I was costuming. Yeah,
Totally
and
agree with that.
you must do it with your running, Carrie. You
Running
must
and
feel the
writing.
same when you run. Yeah.
Yeah, we're walking right now just to
I
be
started
ready
to
for
say, yeah.
the race in
Yeah.
July,
Yeah.
and it's not the same.
Mhm.
It's just
Mm.
not. It's enjoyable. It's pleasant, and it feels good to get out in nature and stuff. But it's not the same as running. I'm looking forward to restarting that.
Yeah.
But writing for sure. When you
Hopefully.
get in the zone, it's because you can't think about anything. And riding a motorcycle was the same, different than driving.
Hmm.
Driving, I love the way my mind can wander, but on the motorcycle, you don't think about anything, but there's so much to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
that's such a good escape.
I remember driving, I had a Lexus that has beautiful suspension, so you don't feel anything. You're just kind of in this box of nothingness. But then I drove a Miata, which was close to the ground. I felt every gravel in the road. It's like, there's something to this. It's kind of cool. I imagine motorcycles are the same way.
Could be. Okay.
Anybody else?
Excuse me.
Nikki, I want to say that, years ago when Rudyard Kipling wrote, "If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too."
Uh-huh.
And then years later, Terry Cole Whitaker wrote a book called "What You Think of Me Is None of My Business."
That's cool.
That's cool. I like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
One of the I've had several times the experience of particularly a movie, because we don't go to the theater that often for many reasons, but when you go to a theater and there's a certain kind of movie that just takes you out of your body, that is such, because you just gone.
Yeah.
For me right now, it's Dune Part 2. I've seen it 3 times. I would love to see it 3 or 4 more in the theater, because from the opening credits until the end, I don't have any idea I'm in a theater. It's just, and the first experience I ever had with that was the Never-Ending Story. Remember that movie
Yeah.
from the 80s?
Yeah.
My mom and I went to see that, and I was, I'm going to say 14 or 15.
Yeah.
What movie they're
And
talking
that was
about?
the first time I had no awareness of being in a theater
Well,
until
movie.
like an hour into the movie, and just went, oh. So storytelling and creativity
Yeah.
is so important to that. Just to,
What movie are you talking about?
Carrie, can you
it's-
repeat the movie?
one was the Never-Ending Story, and one was Dune Part 2, Dune Part 1 as well.
Doomed?
Dune.
Dune, Dune.
Oh, Dune, like sand dune?
Yes.
Oh,
And the Never-Ending Story also.
the never-ending story.
Yes.
Are we able to download those on Prime or Netflix?
Dune Part 2 is not out yet. Dune Part 1 is, and the Never-Ending Story should be somewhere, because that one is 40 years old.
Okay.
So just tell me briefly, what was the concept about Doom?
It was
Dune.
Dune, what the fact that for me sitting in the theater watching that movie, the 2 movies, I was out of my own consciousness
Okay, it lifted you out of yourself.
because the storytelling is so strong, and because I love those stories so much and have for 50 years almost. So that 40 years.
So
Just
are these
being,
historical stories or what are they?
Dune is science fiction,
Okay,
and the Never-Ending Story is fantasy.
sanity.
Fantasy.
Oh,
Yes, sanity. Yes, both of them are sanity.
Exactly, it started to say.
For me, yes. Those the kinds of stories are sanity. Yes. It's perfect.
Hey, Dolly.
Kevin's getting a workout today.
Mm.
Well, I'm just figuring out what is going when. I don't know how long people are waiting, and hopefully not long.
And we had S. McKinsey that came in. Do you know who that is, Paula? Because she's on the member list, but I
I
can't
have
find her
no
first
idea.
name. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I want to say her first name is Sharon,
Okay.
but I'm not sure. And I don't know where she went.
Yeah. Hi, Dolly.
Hi,
Good to see you.
good to see you.
She's got her rainbow up.
Yeah. Awesome.
cute picture.
Yeah, we're getting interrupted. Our Wi-Fi is just
Comes in and out, doesn't it? Yeah.
not strong enough.
Thank you for reminding me, Dolly, that needs to be. I'm going to use that at least to the end of June.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we can end early. We do have a speaker for next week, but it is more conversational and interactive. It's for Mother's Day, about the power of Mother Nature, womb mothers, other mothers, and the experiences we involve.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.